This is basically the components, other than, and also, sorry, the starting pumpkin. This is the components for this game. And when I go to try to talk about stuff, I'm actually going to switch to this screen and show you guys the, I think that blows it up a little bit bigger for you guys. I don't know how well you can read that, but you'll get the point across a little bit better, or as best as I can get it across with this. So first off, I just want to maybe explain a couple of the components and what everything is. So you are given 6 dice, and the dice that you receive are based on the number of players. So you get 4 dice in a 2-player game, you get 5 dice in a 3-player game, and 6 dice in a 4-player game. This is not this is not a roll and write that you can play an infinite number of players, from my knowledge. Now I think you could play. No, it's really not, because it's all dependent on taking the dice. So, Legends, good evening of Dice and Men. Hello, how are you two doing today? I hope you're doing wonderful. We just started talking about Three Sisters. If you guys are not aware, it is coming to Kickstarter. You can check it out at that link. It'll be launching on Tuesday. And I was provided a review copy of this game. But that's I'm not being paid to like promote the game or anything like that. It was just a review copy, just to be completely forthright with everything that doing this. They are a local company to me. This is done by Motor City Gameworks, and that's here in the Metro Detroit area, obviously. And so they reached out to me, being a board game Twitch streamer and YouTube reviewer, about possibly doing content for this game. I had been playing I've done a couple of prototypes, playtesting for the designers of this, and they reached out and they were like, hey, we have this game coming to Kickstarter. Would you be interested in covering it? And I immediately said yes, because everything I've played from Matt Riddle and Ben Pitchback has been wonderful. So I am very much looking forward to this as well. Well, when it launches on Kickstarter. I've already played this and really, really enjoyed it. I've not played the solo mode yet. So let's talk about Three Sisters and why it is called that. Yes, Dice Man says, I've heard all sorts of good things about Three Sisters. Legend says, oh, I thought Rock was going to introduce us to his Three Sisters. No. This game is called Three Sisters because it is based on the concept of 3 crops that work very, very well together. Corn, beans, and squash. And so the corn on our sheet here, let me go ahead and switch to this screen. And shout out to Eclectic Camel. Can I spell this right on my first try? Eclectic Camel. Boom! Spelled that right the first time. Shout out to Eclectic Camel for teaching me how to do this digital zoom on the camera, like using OBS and on the camera, because I can just turn that off and on at a moment's notice, which I really like. Bonsenator, hello, how are you doing tonight, Bonds? So that gets us a little bit closer to the screen. Obviously, it's not like straight up there, but I'm thinking, like for me, it's still small, but I'm thinking for you guys at home, like maybe not on the phone, but on the phone you can like scroll to make it bigger. But I think it on like a computer screen or even on like a laptop, that should be fairly good size. So hopefully you can follow along. So awesome, great to hear. Thank you, of Dyson. I really appreciate that. So, like I said, this is based around corn, beans, and squash. The squash, or the pumpkins, whatever you want to call them, are these symbols on the outside of your zones. All of these are going to represent squash. The corn are these taller ones here in the middle areas that have 3 high squares and then 1 circle on top. And then the beans are the shorter stacks that are directly next to the corn. And the reason the bean stack is only 2 high and it starts at the second level, unlike the corn and the pumpkins that start at the first level, is... Hello, Game Jedi. Rock's favorite Jedi. Yes, this is true. The reason that they start like that is because the beans need the foundation of the corn to start growing. They can't support themselves. They need the corn to help them support. So you need your corn to at least be two squares high before you can even plant a bean. Now the squash can be planted at any time, and these function differently. The corn and the beans will end up giving you victory points if you can harvest them by crossing off the circle at the top of the plant. The squash, when you harvest it, does not give you victory points. It gives you goods, and goods are represented down here in this area. This is a big you can have a lot of goods. You can have up to like 100 goods or something like that. And the one up here is 70 plus. So the best you can have for the benefit is 70 goods, and we'll explain that. What you're looking to do is plant these to get victory points here and get goods here. But that's not the only thing you're doing. This is your garden. So this is your garden area. These are what you're trying to work on. This is your main focus. But you have other areas that you're trying to work on as well. You have your perennials, and these are tulips, hydrangeas, iris, hyacinth, crocus, and daffodil. And these are represented in between your squashes. So what this does is, if you are able to complete this squash here by crossing off, by planting, and then by watering, because you only plant the first level, and then anything after that you actually have to water to make it grow. So you plant for the bottom level, you water to make it grow. And if you plant this level here and then water it 3 times, you've harvested this squash, you've harvested this squash. That means that you can take this tulip action that is right here. You will come down to the tulips. Let me line that back up right. Come down to the tulips right here. You will cross off the first action on the tulips. And the first action of the tulips says, get a fruit. Alright, so what does fruits mean? All of these have different actions. These would be triggered from this and in another way, which we'll get to. So if that says, hey, go get a fruit. Okay, well, we have 4 different kinds of fruits. We have apples, peaches, blackberries, and raspberries. And each one of these does something different. An apple, you checkmark an apple, then you harvest the apple. So it takes 2 apple actions to do. When you harvest the apples, you're going to get victory points based on that. So you 3 victory points here, then you would plant again, but then the next time, every time you harvest, you get 3. So it takes the first 3 actions of apples, you're only going to get 3 victory points. But every action after that, you're going to get 3 again. So apples are great. Peaches do not get you victory points by themselves. But when you harvest a peach, it's plant, harvest, plant, harvest, plant, harvest, or for each fruit action. You will also get to water in your garden, which is very, very nice. Again, lots of combo stuff going on here on this game. Also, down here you have things that are +1 good per peach harvest. So if you get these, when you do your peach harvest, you'll get goods, which come back down here. Again, lots of comboing things can happen in this game. And trying to find the right way to trigger the combos is the thinky part of this game. Because you can just go and checkmark stuff. It's not a huge deal. But trying to maximize your combos can just throw you into some analysis paralysis if you have some trouble with that. But it's in a good way. Blackberries are very straightforward. Every time you harvest a blackberry, you get 2 victory points. And then right here, raspberries, every time you harvest a raspberry, you get 3 goods. And good, again, we're focusing on these goods, and we'll tell you why in a second. But every 3rd raspberry you get, you're going to get victory points. So here you get 1 victory point, here you get 2 victory points, and here you get 5 victory points. And all of this is cumulative. So this is 1, this is 2, so that's 3 total. This is 5, so that's 8 total. Again, this is 3, 6, 9, 12. It's not like replacing it, obviously. So that's everything about fruit. The next area to talk about is your apiary. This is your beehives. So you've got flowers, you've got your garden with your plants, you've got your fruit, you have a beehive. And the beehive, the way this works, is you have to tend your beehive first. So you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 high for your beehive. Once you have done those first 5 for your beehive, you have the option of a little bit of a tech tree. And so you have wax on the left side, honey in the middle, and a split hive on the right. And each of these has different rewards. The wax gives you goods and slightly lower victory points than the honey. The honey doesn't give you goods, but it just gives you straight up victory points. And then over in the split hive, you can get some victory points, you can plant, you can get some fruit, you can plant or water. This has a couple of different powers that you can do. Now, we've been talking about a lot of different goods. What do those goods do? Well, every time you hit 5 goods, so each one of these stars, you will get a bonus action. And you can take that bonus action, I'm turning these slightly, I apologize. You can take that bonus action anywhere on your sheet other than your garden. You cannot plant, you cannot water in your garden with a bonus action. But you can cross off a perennial. You can cross off something in your apiary. You can cross off a fruit. You can do anything up here in the shed. And the shed has a lot of different stuff that are going on. So that's what the goods are important about. Now, the shed has a bunch of different, basically, tools that can help you. And these are all... I actually should have a second sheet here so that I can read these slightly better. So let me just pull that out real quick. Which is right here. So this one right here, mason jars, when you harvest blueberries, or blackberries, apologies, you get 1 good on top of the victory points that you get. So you would cross this off, you would get 2 victory points, you would also get a good. So it's a bonus thing right there. When you complete that, which only takes 1 check mark, you also get you get a bonus point at the end of the game, or a victory point. So these will all be worth victory points as well. The pie safe is 1 good per apple or peach harvest. So every time you harvest apples or peaches, once you have that, you're going to get a good for that. The shovel, you will spend 3 compost for 1 star. The compost is down here in the right corner. And what compost does is allow you to manipulate your dice. So I love dice manipulation in games. It's a big... I mean, of course, my name is Rolling with Rock. I like dice games. I like dice placement games. I like dice manipulation. And this is how you get to that point, along with a couple of powers that you can get from the irises. And if you if you cross out a compost, that allows you to go higher or lower on a singular die. That's what compost is good for, but you can use the shovel, if you have a lot of compost, to turn them in for bonus actions. Because that's a star. Star equals bonus action. So not victory point, but bonus action. You still will also get a victory point when you complete that. The fruit bowl, if you have at least 1 of 1, 2, 3, or 4 fruits, you will get 1, 4, 7, or 11 victory points at the end of the game. So if you take 3 shed actions over the course of the game to cross these off, and have taken at least 1 fruit action in the apples, well, I'm sorry, I can't say 1 fruit action, because it takes 2 to get the apple, takes 2 to get the peaches, 1 to get the blackberry, 1 to get the raspberry, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you take 6, Mei-chan, hello, yes, it is board game time. If you take 6 fruit actions and 3 shed actions, that gives you 11 victory points at the end of the game, just there. So fruit bowl is great if you diversify your fruit basket. The rain barrel is after rain, water a zone. So the rain is a power that will happen over here. I'm actually covering that up for a second. That didn't go away. Why is that not going away? There we go. Rain is a power that will happen over here, and I will talk about those after I go through all this. But rain will make water basically your whole garden, and everything that is planted will grow to the next level. It's like I have a lot of people who know Animal Crossing in the chat. When you have a rainy day on Animal Crossing, the next day you come by, all of your plants grow, right? This is the same concept here. Rain happens, everything grows. Your whole garden, it hits everything. Hello, Anne. Good evening. I hope you're having a wonderful night. I hope everybody is having a great time, and thank you all for being here. We are going to be playing Three Sisters, which is what we are talking about right now. It is a farming game about corn, beans, and squash. So, it rains, everything grows. One, Lost Pupper, hello! And then, after that, you can water one of these 6 areas again. So, basically, in one of your areas, you can grow twice, which is really, really awesome. That's a really good one to try to go for early, because in round 2, 4, and 8, you get rain. And that's the only 3 times in the game you're going to get it. The casserole dish is this one right here. You will get 1 victory point per 2 beans that you have harvested. So beans again are the short stacks here. You can get a lot of beans if you really focus on it, and you get an extra victory point for every 2 of them. So instead of each one being worth 1, they're basically worth 1.5. Great. The fancy labels is honestly my favorite thing to go for in the shed. And what that is you get +1 perennial action when you have the farmer's market. That's either the power from here or when you take the farmer's market action in the rondelle. Again, we'll talk about the rondelle once we're done talking about the shed. This is my favorite thing to get because the perennials, which are the stuff down here, have so many other abilities and are worth points at the end. So I don't know if it is the best thing to go after, but I really liked going after that and kind of working with the perennials. That seemed like a really good thing to go after, and getting more actions is always great, especially when those actions will more than likely allow you to do something else. The next one is the hive tool. When you take a crocus perennial action, so this area right here, you get to have a bonus apiary action, which is right there again. So anytime you take this action, if you have the hive tool, you can take one of these as well, which is pretty nice. I will say I didn't really use the crocus actions too much, so I didn't focus on getting that tool. But we'll see what happens tonight. Every game could be very, very different. The pitchfork, when you take the hydrangea perennial action, you will get to compost 1. So it gives you an extra compost anytime you take the hydrangea perennial action, which is the pitchfork right here. The string trimmer, if you take 4 shed actions, that will get you 6 victory points. No other bonuses, just 6 victory points. The wheelbarrow will give you 1 bonus good every time you take a shed action. So it takes 3 shed actions to get that point. It will give you 3 victory points, and then every time you take a shed action after that, you will get a good. Pretty nice. The mulch is take 2 perennial actions instead of the board action. And we'll talk about the board action. I believe it means the rondelle action, because that's really the board. And because that's really the only time it mentions board action instead of saying rondelle action. We will talk about those, but especially at certain times, that could be very, very helpful. Because sometimes you don't really need to do that action, and it would be much helpful to take 2 perennials. So I do like the mulch, and that only takes 2 shed actions to do. The shiny new tractor has 6 shed actions that it takes, but if you... A what action? A rondelle. Yes. Did I say? Did I? I don't know what I said. If I did, oh well. I'm not. I don't have the pleasure like Bonzinator to be part of Family Friendly Live. Did I? What am I saying? Shed. Shed. Yes. Shed. 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 Someone needs to get their mind out of the gutter. No, I tease you. I tease you. If I'm saying the other word, then maybe, I don't know. But my intent is to say shed. Yes. Shed. Duh. They are definitely not those type of actions. The shed actions are very good. They are not poop emoji. My mind was in the mulch. Yes, that is a good topical reference. Okay, so Shiny 2 Tractor. If you take all the actions for that, you would just get 15 victory points, which is honestly really good. The carving kit is 1 victory point per harvested pumpkin in the longest chain. And what that means is, again, we were talking about the pumpkins on the outside. If you say you had this one completed, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, but this one's not complete and that one's not complete, that's going to be 4 extra victory points at the end of the game. That Midwest accent is betraying you. I don't know. I mean, again, I've lived in the Midwest for 11 years now, and prior to that, I was born in Baltimore and lived in Pennsylvania for most of my life prior to moving to Michigan here. I don't really know what my have to drive to pick up a fruit smoothie. Hey, Bonzanier, no worries. Enjoy your fruit smoothie. I don't know if my accent is Midwestern or it's just a combination of them all, because basically wherever I go, people usually ask, like, where is my accent from? So maybe I probably have definitely caught on more to a Midwestern accent being out here lately. Hey, what accent? Thank you, Jedi. Or just call it a storage cabin so Bonds doesn't get confused. So the next time I'm on for Team Bonds versus Team Rock, I should just reference this game a lot and say the shed action over and over and over again when we're on Bonds' channel. The shed action, the shed action, the shed action. Okay, anyway. The carving pumpkin will get you an extra point for the chain that you have of pumpkins. That's a clip of shed action. Yes, I figured it was, and I will definitely watch it here. And the last one you have is the seed spreader. And the seed spreader is if you take 4 shed actions, you'll get 2 victory points, which is great. But then every time after that you plant, you will get, yes, they confuse everyone else in the process. Indeed. Every time you plant, instead of only planting 2 crops at a time for that action, you will plant 3 crops. So, very, very good. The problem I see with that is by the time you unlock this, a good portion of your planting might be done. So I don't know how beneficial it is to go after that. I haven't played around with that strategy to know yet. But that is everything that's on these 2 boards, or 2 pieces of paper. So we take this away for a second. I'm actually going to move this on top of them, just so that I can zoom in again, because I didn't make a second zoom like I should have. And this is our game board. The game board consists of a rondel. A rondel is a action mechanic in board games, which is basically a circle. And so this rondel has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 action spaces. Those action spaces consist of taking either an apiary or a fruit action, taking a plant or a water action, a shed time action. Oh, shed. I got multiple clips. That's awesome, Jedi. Thank you. Jedi, go ahead and... Okay, nope, you're doing it. I see it on the Discord. You're the best, Jedi. Huge shout out to Jedi for being my mod and being amazing. Thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate it. This one here is you can get 1 compost or 4 goods. I don't know why you would ever take the compost for that. The 4 goods is a much better bonus in my opinion, but I guess if you really, really need the compost, you can go for it. Then you have another apiary and fruit, you have another shed time, and then you have the farmer's market. Those are the actions on the rondel. The farmer's market is every time the farmer's market is triggered, you are going to take an action based on the number of goods that you have. Ripapillo, I'm going to lurk while I get some work done. Thank you so much, Ripapillo. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you stopping by. And hopefully your work goes well. And hopefully we'll see you soon. And thank you so much for the lurk. So if you have 0 goods, you're only going to get a compost. 4, you get a perennial action and a compost. 20, you get a perennial action and a fruit. 35, you get 2 perennial actions and a compost. 50, 2 perennial actions and a fruit. And 70, 2 perennial actions and a action anywhere other than in your garden. A bonus action. So it doesn't have to be a fruit that time. And remember, I was talking about the perennial actions. If you get high enough on the iris perennial, no, not the iris perennial. Where is it? I'm sorry, I misspoke. If you get the fancy labels, that gives you an extra perennial action every time you do this. So if you have the fancy labels, instead of 1 perennial, it's 2. Instead of 2 perennials, it's 3. It can add up very fast every time you do the farmer's market. So if you have the fancy labels, I recommend trying to go for the farmer's market more, which will give you the perennial actions, which will give you more bonus and other things to do on the rest of your sheet. I like that strategy. That's what's worked for me in the game that I played, but we're going to see what happens tonight here in the solo game. And then there are 8 rounds in the game. Round 1, each round has a power that happens at I won't say a power, an event that happens at the end of the game. You have in round 1, you will take a shed action. In round 2, you will have it rain in your garden. Round 3, you get to go to the farmer's market. 4, it rains again. 5, you go back to the farmer's market. 6, you take another shed action. 7, you go back to the farmer's market. And in 8, it rains again. So you have 3 rains, 3 farmer's markets, and 2 shed actions. And that is the rondel and the game board there. The blue marker or the purple marker, I'm not sure if that's blue or purple, to be honest. That will just move every round. And this is our Farmer Edith. In the regular game, not the solo game, in the regular game, she's really not super important. She does help a little bit with trying to choose dice, because like we would roll these dice, and what you do is you group all the dice and put them around the board. So in this case, nothing's getting grouped because none of the dice are the same. But let's say we rolled the 3 here instead of the 4. This is how we would group our dice. Excuse me. And then, so the lowest number goes on the next action, then the next lowest, then the next lowest after that. And you would take Farmer Edith and move her to that space. Everybody's going to draft dice then. So you have a drafting dice element and take both a gardening action as well as a rondel action. Oh, my apologies. I'm doing all this with the zoom on. So let me talk about that again. You roll all these dice. Farmer Edith always starts here. This is the Farmer Edith die, or character. You will take the lowest die, or group of dice, and put them on the next action in the row. Then you take the next group of lowest dice, and the last group of lowest dice, or whatever, however it ends up with the amount of dice that you have and what you've rolled. After that, you take Farmer Edith and move her to the next available space, and then in player order, you will draft a die. let's say I draft this single die, the one die on the plant and water action. I get a gardening action, which allows me to plant or water in my garden. Then I take my and I have to do that in the one section, which is right here. Then I take my rondel action, which is also plant or water, and again I have to do it in my one section because that's what my die is. If I went to the, instead of taking the one, if I took one of the threes, I would do my gardening action in the 3 zone, but then I would take the shed action, and then the die number doesn't really matter there. And then finally, in this case, if I took the 5, I could get 4 goods or 1 compost, and I would do my gardening action in the 5 zone. So let's say this was a 3-player game, and everything got taken except for this 3. What happens is you find the die that is closest to, actually this would have 1 extra die, so we'll say these 2 were left, because it would be an extra die in a 5-player game, or a 3-player game. You find the die that is in the next closest to Farmer Edith in clockwise order. So you don't go backwards. It's not. It's like it's not. It's not like going over. But you don't go backwards. You don't go counterclockwise. You always go in a clockwise order, which would be this 3. And then so everybody's taking their individual action based off of the die that they picked. Then you take this action as well. So you'd be taking basically 4 actions in a turn: 2 gardening, 2 rondel actions per turn. That's in the normal game. And you do that for 8 rounds. You pass the starting player token, which is this pumpkin. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. There's really no, like, take that mechanic in the game. So some people will really like that. Some people will maybe not like that as much, depending on how you like to play board games. But for me, I like that. Now, there is the only take that possibly is the dice drafting. So somebody else may want a die that you take, but it's not detrimental to. It's not like taking stuff away from them, as per se. It's just you're still getting an action. You're not hurting them in any way. I do like the player interaction with this because it's not really going to hurt other players. Everybody can kind of just do their own thing. And again, some players like that and some players do not, and that's okay. Like I know somebody who, like Bonzinator, who plays a lot of board games, enjoys more player interaction, enjoys more take that, enjoys more competitive play than myself, who I prefer board games where you can kind of do your own thing, not necessarily have to attack each other or hurt each other in a certain way. And that just comes down to board gamer preference. Okay, so we talked about that is how you play the regular game. Now we're going to talk about a couple of key differences with the solo mode, which is what I am playing tonight. I am playing my solo mode against Farmer Edith. And the way this works is Farmer Edith doesn't get anything, per se. She's going to make me cross off stuff on my sheet. And I'm going to have to figure out exactly how to do that. But, because I was reading the rules, and I was slightly unclear on a couple of things. But I'm going to use my best educated guesses on how to make all of this work. Because when I cross it off, I have to figure out, can I use that at all? Is it completely gone? I'm not entirely sure. But I'm going to use my best educated guess. So, what happens is we have the planning phase as normal. We're going to roll these dice. We're going to place them out here, just like this. And we're going to move Farmer Edith. She's not really actually that important with moving in this one as she was in the other one. But then, me, as the first player, I will get to take one of these dice. I'll get one of them. I will take a gardening action. I will take my rondel action. Then, Farmer Edith will take a die. And she will take 2 actions as well. She will always take her gardening action first. The players can choose to do actions in either order. They don't have to do the gardening and then the rondel. But Farmer Edith will always take the gardening action and then take her rondel action. what the die and the rondel action are determines what her action on your sheet is. So unfortunately, there is a little bit, at least for me, because I don't think I could ever remember any of this. There is a lot of reading the rules during the solo mode, because you have to reference these to see what she will do. There's not maybe in the actual Kickstarter, there will be a hand, because this is a prototype copy, obviously, a review copy. Component quality and all that stuff, not final. So I have to reference the rules to see what she does. Totally gone forever. Earth has been salted. Okay. So when she takes a gardening action, she's going to cross off something on my list. And it says the crop she chooses is based on the priority system. She will cross off the tallest pumpkin first in that section, all the way down to the shortest pumpkin. Once all pumpkins have either been crossed off or I've started to plant them, then she'll start crossing off coins from tallest, and then once she has all coins in that section are claimed, she'll start crossing off beans. That's for the gardening. Then when it comes to the rondel actions, there's a bunch of different stuff. Planting and watering works the same way as gardening, but shed time has a priority list based on if it's at this one or this one. If it's the compost and the goods thing, she will cross off my next available bonus action, and I will not get to use it, and that hurts. Because again, and I like what they did here, because this is probably the least action that you're going to take most often, and you're going to get punished for not taking it, because if that's there, she's going to make you lose your bonus actions, and bonus actions can be very, very helpful. The It Barrier Fruit has a hierarchy as well, depending on the number that is rolled, will determine what of these she will start to cross off, and she works from the top down or from the right left. So not the worst. And then the farmer's market, she will cross off the top perennial based off of the number rolled. So we will see all of that as we go along with the game. But that is the rules. I took some time to explain the singular game and the solo mode. But the actual gameplay, once you get down to it, is honestly fairly simple. It just has a lot of combo things going on. But we should be able to play this in short order, especially in a solo mode style, where you're not waiting for potentially 4 people who are trying to figure out what is the best move and what is the best combo to potentially go through this. I will say this definitely has an aspect of analysis paralysis possible to it. Most board games do, obviously. And it does get worse as the game progresses, because you can start really getting combo-tastic. But if you don't suffer from that, or it's not a problem to you, it's not even something to